Okay. And here we are. It is May 6th, 2023. Helpful to hold all of this in context. I was saying before we started the recording that, excuse me, we are on our 3 years now of Zoom classes and recorded classes, and quite a few of us have been doing this together this whole time, and I'm profoundly grateful to be able to offer this, to be able to practice with you, to have this really beautiful community that we've co-created. Title for today's class is called Embodied Intelligence, and it's inspired by a book signing that I had this opportunity to not only go to, but also to introduce the author. And I know the author. This is her book. It's called Moving Between Worlds, and the author is Andrea Olson. And she came into Boulder 2 weeks ago to do her book signing, and she lives up in Vermont, and she worked for many years at Middlebury College in Vermont. And she's a dancer and an embodiment and movement teacher and body-mind centering facilitator and so on and so forth. And I have known her because she also happens to be the aunt of one of my very dear friends. And so, oh, that's so amazing. Ashley took dance with her in college. Okay, I love these cross connections here. That just made my day. So Ashley, that's on recording too, but that's very cool. I'm going to send this to her, so she'll make that connection as well. And so as I am sharing, I have the opportunity to introduce Andrea, and I share with her a story that I have shared umpteen times when I am teaching about embodiment, and my first introduction to it, which was when I was an undergrad and I went to Oberlin College, and I was studying psychology, and I was living with a girlfriend who was in the dance department, and she said, hey, come with me to this workshop that's happening in the dance department. I think you'd really like it. And it was a body mind centering workshop. And this literally rocked my world. It just opened me up. It opened my heart. It opened my soma. It provided me access to so much more felt experience of myself. It was deeply vulnerable. And I just came out of it going, what was that? And I want more of that. And so it changed my personal life and also my professional trajectory, and led me into studying somatics. So how cool is that? So I'm sharing this story because it was relevant to some of the stories she's sharing in her book. And she's a storyteller. But what was so striking is after I share this, she's sitting up on the platform at the Boulder bookstore, and she says, you were in that class? And I said, you taught that class? And that was the moment that I realized that I'm introducing the person telling the story who taught me the very first embodiment class. And I didn't put that together until that moment. And I share that because, I mean, it's a cool story, but it's also this way that I'm feeling kind of like these loops that are closing right now. And sometimes these loops that close are painful loops, and sometimes they're stunningly beautiful loops. But there's this way in which I feel like we're kind of revisiting and returning to some core themes, whether they're painful themes from the past that are flushing to the surface for us to sort through and filter and hopefully find new resolution, or sometimes some really cool loops like that bring us into further affirmation of a path that we've stepped upon that is taking us just where we need to be. So I'm going to speak to how we might enter a little bit further into this embodiment journey for just a moment. Then I have a poem or two, and then we're going to move together. First of all, in Andrea Olson's book, there's one point that she speaks about in this in the book called Moving Between Worlds, a guide to embodied living and communicating. She speaks to the intersection between embodiment and how we're relating to other, whether that's the space around us, the people around us, the world around us. And that when we are disembodied or disconnected from ourselves, we tend to show up disconnected or lacking empathy or lacking connectivity to others or our planet even, right? And so the embodiment journey is so much not just about our own personal evolution, but also that which serves our collective in so many important ways. And she speaks in her book at one point about the three sources of kind of mind in the body, the three locations of mind in the body. The location of mind that we often think of right here, you know, and then the location of mind that is located here in the heart, like the intelligence of the heart. And then the location of mind and intelligence that lives right down in our gut, right down in the very, very deep belly of our being. And so that particular segment of the book inspired me to explore a little bit how yoga helps us link up or connect these three locations of wisdom and intelligence, our instinctual nature, our heartful emotional nature, and our mental capacities. And we need all of them. And we need them to work in sync with each other. So that's what we're going to play with today, these sources of intelligence and intuition. And as I guide embodied presence, I'm inviting you to rest in your deepest instinctual knowing, to connect to your heart as a source of compassion and kindness, and to align with your wisest self. I'll say that again. The invitation today is to rest in your deepest instinctual knowing, to connect to your heart as a source of compassion and kindness, and to align with your wisest self. Okay. So this flow is aimed to help awaken and connect to the three sources of intelligence within you. We'll start out rather close to the earth to embody that instinctual self. We'll rise up into heart and each other and the world that we share. I want to borrow a quote here from Bernie Clark, who says that in yoga, he's the developer of the yin yoga style, and he says that we don't use the body to get into a pose. We use the pose to get into the body. Right? So cool. Right, let's flip this around. How are we engaging with this? So I want to speak, especially for those of you that are new or those of you that are catching this by recording and are new to my work. I want to speak to some of the core principles of this practice today, but really the whole, like any class that you might catch with me of the 120 or so that are now up on YouTube, right? So these are the core principles. One is that you are your own best teacher. Listen to the cues that you receive from your body, mind, and breath, and let that inform you about the state of your nervous system. That's number two. Right? Let yourself really tune in, listen, get to know, because once you know the state of your nervous system, you can fine tune the practice, right? You can upregulate or downregulate if you want to use fancy words. That number three is honor your body, your pace, and let your breath be your guide. So if there's anything I'm ever teaching that's too fast, too slow, you can shift that. Yeah. Number four, each posture is an opportunity to explore. So it's not so much that we're trying to perfect anything. There's no goal to achieve, but we move into a shape, and that's this opportunity to get into the body, to get to know yourself there. And then we'll find a new shape and you get to do it all again. Follow your instincts and make the practice a unique expression of you. Next, have fun and let yourself find your inner joy. Such a key component, in my opinion. And stop and rest as often as you would like. Okay. And lastly, I hope that this practice nourishes your body, mind, and soul. Thank you. All right. Invitation to settle into whatever shape supports you as I share a little bit of poetry as we prepare for movement. Two poems today. Number one, it's called Field Guide by Tony Hoagland. Once in the cool blue middle of a lake, up to my neck in that most precious element of all, I found a pale gray curled upwards pigeon feather floating on the tension of the water. At the very instant when a dragonfly like a blue-green iridescent bobby pin hovered over it, then lit and rested. That's all. I mention this in the same way that I fold the corner of a page in certain library books so that the next reader will know where to look for the good parts. That's a little invitation there. Let's find those good parts in our practice, shall we? Okay. Next poem. The Way It Is by Lynn Ungar. One morning, you might wake up to realize that the knot in your stomach has loosened itself and slipped away, and that the pit of unfulfilled longing in your heart had gradually, and without you really noticing, been filled in, patched like a pothole, not quite the same as it was, but good enough. And in that moment, it might occur to you that your life, though not the way you planned it, and maybe not even entirely the way you wanted it, is nonetheless persistently, abundantly, miraculously, exactly the way it is. Okay. That touches me. All righty, let's do some movement. Finding your way to your movement space if you're not there already. I'm going to make my way there. And we're going to start with a seated breath practice. So you get to choose your comfortable starting position, whether you want to be cross-legged, sitting up on a block or a bolster, or in a chair, right? This is very much adaptable. And whatever shape you are starting with, I will invite you to explore how it feels to lengthen your spine. And that lengthening your spine starts from a really nice supported pelvic bowl, right? And that you can explore with the bowl of the pelvis that it can roll forward, that it can roll back, and that as you press the sits bones down, your pelvic bowl will perhaps roll just a slight bit forward or come into neutral, but enough that allows your spine to go from here to here. So finding that lengthening of your spine, you can allow your arms to simply rest. And you might even fine tune just a little bit more. Shoulders might be back or forward, and what allows shoulders to stack a little bit more over hips. And allowing as if there was the most gentle filament lifting your sternum, creating that feeling of openness through the heart. Your shoulders might roll open and back slightly. Notice the space that that creates for your breath. And another one of those very light filaments lifting up from the crown of your head. And finding length and space. Drawing awareness to your breath. Maybe adding in a texture to your breath so that there's a little bit of that ujjayi pranayama, that oceanic or wave sounding breath. And that slight constriction will create an audible sound to the inner ear. And I'll invite you to begin the breath as if you could breathe up from the pelvic floor and allow that breath to follow the lengthened spine, even perhaps creating a little bit more length. At the top of the inhale, the exhale takes us back down to the bottom, bringing awareness back to tailbone, pelvic floor. Inhale, allowing the breath to lift up. And exhale, circulating back down to your roots. And I'll invite you to think of that root system like a seed planted deep in the ground, and then the seed sprouts with the breath. The sprout lengthens all the way up through the spine, flowers at the crown of the head. On the exhale, the seeds from the flower return back to earth. And again, inhale, drawing from earth up, letting the sprout rise. Becomes stalk, becomes flower. Flower opens at the top of the inhale, releasing its seeds back to earth. And 2 or 3 more breaths, your own cycle here, following that imagery. Beautiful. All right, and we'll deepen in from here. A moment to rub your palms together. And this time we're going to start at the top and move down. So just sweeping your hands either across the top of your head or smoothing across your forehead, your cheeks. You can greet front and back of the skull here, holding forehead and occiput. Just greeting the mind that lives up in here, honoring its wisdom. And then we're going to move downward across throat, shoulders down to hands. You can even sweep downwards from chest to belly or upper back across kidneys, and just finding some variations of all of that as suits you. That sweeping downward with the hands. And then shoulders to hands, throat to belly, upper back, across kidneys, down to sacrum, tailbone. And then just a gentle sweeping. You might even uncross your legs if they're crossed, just a sweeping all the way down to greet your very own feet. You can wiggle your toes for a moment and honoring legs and feet. Beautiful. And coming back to sitting. So from here, an invitation to place a hand over your heart and a hand over your belly. And we'll find some breath and movement here. You can exhale, contract. Inhale, let your spine open and lengthen, and then you can just kind of really allow yourself to follow that contraction with spinal movement and breath. So that as you exhale, you can squeeze everything in, and inhale, fill. Lovely. And then you might stay just like this Or you might begin to open your arms a little bit with the breath. That can be just to here, moving and drawing back in, or you might open the arms all the way wide and close. And as this is a breath-centered movement, you can explore that pacing and whether you want to breathe in and out through the nose or maybe some exhales through the mouth, a sigh, a sound, letting something go. And I'll often offer a variation of this as you open your arms on the exhale, sweeping right arm under left, and just give yourself a hug. And open it up. And sweeping left under right. Opening here. Right under left. And open. Left under right. We'll do one more variation of this one. This time as we open, exhale right under left and listen carefully. We're going to find perhaps a double wrap here. So into eagle arms. And if you don't come all the way, or if that doesn't work for your body, come right back to the hug. If you're in eagle arms, exploring for a moment, lifting the elbows, lifting your heart, your chest, and exhale, curling it in. Lifting and lowering the elbows with the breath. Good, one more like that. And then open up the arms on your next inhalation. And exhale left under right. And again, you can come back to hug, or you might come to that double wrap here. So we've got eagle arms. And drawing the elbows up, lifting head, chest. And exhale, elbows drawing towards belly. Curl it all in. Good. Moving with breath. And one more like that. Good. And then release, maybe a few shoulder rotations here, just letting that go. Roll back, you can roll shoulders forward. Good, your arms can get into it, however you'd like to make that yours. Lovely. And a moment here of just greeting the side body. Take it to one side. Let that feel good. And the other side. And one more time each side. Gorgeous. Coming back through to center. In this next one, it's like a churning for the belly. And so we're going to place hands on the knees, and we'll find some broad rotating movements of upper body around the pelvis, and really tune into that three-dimensionality of the bowl of your pelvis once again. In this churning movement, if you exhale as you come back, and draw the navel in, you begin to create a massage across your digestive organs. Now, if you've just eaten, go light, okay? And it's, you'll start to sense and feel getting kind of deep in there. We're going to go the other direction. And that feeling of kind of churning. You can imagine yourself like the butter churn, stirring it all into one smooth, liquefied substance. Beautiful. Okay, one last movement in this sequence, coming back to center. We're going to draw arms up overhead. Invitation is to twist to your right. I'll go right first. Now I'm probably not mirroring you, so just so you know, right fingertips behind, left hand can come to your right knee. And you can really gauge based on your body, your spine, the depth of the twist. You can again find that long spine that we found before. Find the edge of the twist, back off from it. Right? There's nothing that we're trying to achieve, no goal. You're going towards sensation. And so you can ride the edge of sensation, get curious about it. You might choose to then take hold of your right knee and find a little side lean as left shoulder heads towards left knee and right arm can come up overhead. And that may or may not feel good in your body. So just feel it out. It feels really good for me. It's a beautiful opening for the whole right side body. But I want you to really listen to you here. And then up and out, back to center. We'll draw arms up overhead. And twisting to the left fingertips behind, right hand can come and greet the left knee. And for a few breaths here, greeting how your body shows up in the twist to this side. You might find a little edge and then pause, send your breath into any pockets of sensation. How is your body speaking through those sensations? Each side might have a different story to tell. And then if you'd like, you might take hold of that left knee with right hand and begin to lean right shoulder towards right knee. You might even take left arm overhead towards the ceiling or even in reaching in the direction of the crown. And then let the breath fill the shape. Use the shape to find the body. Just up and out when you feel ready and even. We'll come back through to center. And the invitation from here is to roll up and over your knees and to find your way into a child's pose. So you can choose in your child's pose, knees together, knees wide. Maybe you want to bolster between your hips and your heels to create more space for your knees. So adapting, listening, and using the pose to get into the body. What's beautiful about this shape is that it's easier to sense how your breath can move all the way into the kidney area, perhaps even all the way through lower back to sacrum to tailbone. And sure, we don't have lungs in the sacrum, but what we do sense is the intentionality of the breath and the connectivity through fascia. And that as the diaphragm moves, it creates changes through all of this abdominal region. So filling up the lower lungs, the kidneys, maybe all the way down, you send your breath to tailbone. And you might choose to stay right here at center, or perhaps beginning to walk your hands off your mat towards the right. And it'll Probably wake up some sensation in your left side body. And you can wiggle around in here, make it yours. Give it a sound, send your breath into pockets of sensation. And then we'll take this around to side 2. And likewise, what does this side of your body want from you now? Want to tell you, want you to know? Breathing into the intercostals between the ribs. And then back through to center. From center, pressing into shins enough to lift up into table. And you might even play with that a few times around. You can explore initiating that movement from the tailbone, from the crown of your head, from the back of your heart. Just pressing back and forth, child's to table. Even sensing the way that a very young child would begin those first movements in life, from being belly down to the earth, to sending their weight up into hands and knees and looking around and getting curious. And we'll arrive in our tabletop. And again, a few moments to accommodate to a new shape, a new place in gravity, and let your instinctual body take the lead. That core intelligence that lives in the belly, in your sensory knowing. Stunning. And then we'll come back through here to tabletop. From your tabletop, an invitation to take your left leg back, toes to the earth. And for a few breaths here, just give it a rock. Nice little rocking motion. My ankle just skipped a nice little snap, crackle, pop. And so just allow yourself to open up through the calf, the back of the leg. Great. And then from here, the right shin might turn open, which will allow you to come up into gait. Okay. And take a moment, new shape and gravity. You can perhaps see what needs to be adjusted to support that shape. And if you come over into that side lean, once again, breathing into your side body. We'll come up and over. Right hand can come back down to the mat. And for a moment, reaching left arm overhead. So this supportive side plank, if you want to think about it that way, or a knee down side angle, and another opportunity to greet your side bodies. From here, I'll invite you to walk yourself forward. So you might come off your mat, and that's okay. And in this kind of angled leg to side version of tabletop, you might send your hip towards your right heel and lift back up. You can lift that left toes up off the mat or keep them grounded. Just a few breaths here to greet inner thigh and maybe some hamstring, wherever you sense that. And then returning to this tabletop variation, this time invitation is to take your left arm to lift and exhale to sweep under. So I think of this like the fern unfurling to the sun, and exhale as we curl back into self. Another breath and movement here, lifting and lowering. And from here, Listen carefully. We're going to walk around towards that left extended leg. And you might do a little knee adjustment or heel adjustment. You might even place a little pillow under your right knee. We're not here for too long. Just a breath or two, greeting, left hamstring. And then we're going to come forward into a low lunge, planting hands, lifting right knee. Okay. From this low lunge, simply stepping left foot back to meet the right and pausing in a downward facing dog. You might walk it out. You might prefer stillness. And then slowly descending knees back to the mat, we return to a tabletop. And a few breaths here, you might come in and out of table to child's pose, maybe even coming forward. Just greeting these transitional spaces as an exploratory process. And then coming back through to tabletop. Good. This time, right foot back, toes tucked, and rocking on the right toes, greeting ankle, calf, back of the leg. Good. And then left shin turns back enough to lift all the way up into gait. And you can pause for a moment upright. Really feel your hips in this shape. You might begin to lean over towards your right leg. Let it feel good. Again, kind of following sensation and meeting the edges, breathing there. We'll come up and over, left hand plants, and finding that long line on the right side of your body. And around we go, walking your hands forward into this funky tabletop with the extended right leg. And you might set your hips back and forward. You can keep the right toes grounded, or you might lift the toes toward the ceiling. Noticing how those subtle changes in the shape are quite noticeable. And then returning to the funky table. Okay, and we're going to sweep right arm up and underneath. Inhale, unfurl. And exhale, sweep. One more time. And then here's our transition back to the front of your mat, the original front here. And you can adjust your knee or pat it as needed. And as I said before, not here too long, just enough to greet your right hamstring. And then we rebend, low lunge, planting hands, tucking left toes. So we can step right foot back to meet the left, downward facing dog. Second time here, and down dog is a fantastic shape to receive feedback of what begins to change throughout the practice as we revisit this shape again and again. And you can notice subtle or not so subtle shifts. From this down dog, once again, I'm going to invite you to lower your knees, meeting in a tabletop. This time from tabletop, invitation is to send your left leg back And exhale, knee under your torso. You can curl nose towards knee. And this time we'll inhale, lift back. And exhale, knee towards left shoulder. You might gaze towards your knee. And inhale, this time exhale under your body. Inhale, knee to shoulder. Inhale, back, exhale under. This next one's different. We're going to inhale back and exhale, plant your left foot. Okay. And this is going to support us to come into what we'll call the half squat. So some of you've been taking with me for quite a while and you've played around in this half squat before. And some of you are new to this. And if you are new to this shape, you might notice that it's better for you to stay up high, that's more copacetic for your knees and acceptable for your hips. So you can really just play around with what supports in this shape. And what's really cool about this shape is there's a lot of potential movement that can come from here. And that's kind of what we're going to play with for a few breaths is how does your body make this shape your very own? And you might find side body reaches and stretches. You might curl it in, lengthen and open it up. Right? You might curl toward your left leg, and this is a fun one. You can open it up, plant your right hand, reach back into that variation of gait that we played with before, and then curl it back in. So we can feel that inside of the contraction, there's a whole lot of potential movement, potential growth. Maybe playing for another few breaths here with whatever variation is calling to you. And when you're ready, the transition for where we're going next is a little fun. So just going to lift up so you can see it more clearly. When we lift up here, I'll invite you to take your right foot a little forward enough so that you can land on your mat and not sit on your foot. That's going to take our feet forward. And if none of that made any sense, we'll meet on our backs. So taking your time and arriving here. Once on your back, an invitation to wake up through that core intelligence for a few breaths here. Hands behind head, taking soles of feet together. Inhale here and exhale, elbows and knees. And inhale to open. So with this little clamshell action, you get to feel into your range of motion. And it might be relatively small, or it might be a wider range and there's no better or worse. Through that widening range, you might send your feet a little further forward on that inhale. But what we're really looking for is the ability to kind of keep that core awakening engagement, the whole movement through, so that even on the inhale pattern as we open, we still have that core engaged. One more like that. And then coming back through to center, this time right ankle over left thigh. So in a figure four, and we'll twist our figure four upper body with elbow towards knee, inhale to open. And there's variations here as well. You can keep left foot on the earth and just move through the upper body, or you can parallel left shin to your mat. We're inhaling as you open, exhale as you twist. One more like that. Back through to center, crossing right thigh over left. So now we have eagle legs. We had eagle arms earlier. I'll invite you to place hands behind your head once again, and we'll lift, curl, draw everything to midline, and inhale, open it up. Just like our clamshell, you can explore that range of motion and explore how it feels to keep your core engaged the whole movement through. Beautiful. One more like that. And then lowering through your upper body. Here, palm over palm, pressing into your right thigh, and give some resistance back. So you've got a static hold, legs pressing into hands, hands pressing into legs. Feel a little shake. And then let it go. Let your knees fall in. You might reach around and grab hold of opposite ankles, and we'll find a supine Gomukhasana, little stretch here, a little hip opener. And if that's too much on your knees, you can open this up to a figure 4, which you just simply might prefer anyway. So either way, sending your breath into your hips, into your sacrum, lower belly. And as we release out of the stretch, I'll invite you to take hands behind knees. We're going to rock and roll on the spine, and we're going to do all of that coming into the second side of the core. So we're going to roll up and over shins into tabletop. Wow, here we are again. Okay, now you might notice left and right sides are slightly differently engaged here, and that's just fine. We'll even it out in a moment. But take a few breaths, some free movement before we take this into side 2. Super. All right, in side 2, we'll start with, this is belly down core. We're going to lift through the right leg. Take a moment, a breath here. Exhale, knee under towards your chin. Curl it all in. Inhale, lengthen. Knee towards right shoulder. You can turn gaze. Inhale. Exhale, under. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale to the right. Inhale. Last time under. Inhale. And this time exhale, right foot plants. Here we are, half squat, side 2. And it can take a little bit of fiddling to find your way in, and you can maybe be up high, be down low, and start to explore. And then opening hand, you might even open the body out of that tight little ball and come back into the seed and grow into the flower. Good. Your variations, whatever's feeling called for on this side of your body. And then from here, we have our fun transition to your back. So lifting up, you can tuck your left heel in enough to have space to sit down on your mat, or however you want to get there. We're going to come into the second side of the core. Rolling down. This time, instead of clamshells, hands behind your head, an invitation to come into a supine bicycle, just twisting from side to side. You can pause, you can find your pace and breath. You might find this with bent knees. Some of you might prefer this with long legs. And remember, there's no better or worse, no right or wrong, no goal to achieve. It's like a cruiser bike ride on a sunny day where you're just going out to see the sights. And then when you feel even on both sides, we'll come back to center. You can lower your head for a moment and placing left ankle over your right thigh. Foot can be on the earth or lifted. And we'll find that twist just to the left side. And from here, left thigh can tuck on top of the right. So now we have eagle legs, and then drawing everything to center and opening it up. Once again, there's a quality of keeping that core engagement the whole time through. And then lastly, lowering upper body down, pressing hands into the upper leg, pressing the legs into hands, nice static hold. Feel it, really commit to it. We're not here long. Let everything shake for a moment. Feel the heat and then let it go. Let the legs sink in, and again, maybe you're reaching around for opposite ankles and finding that supine cow facing stretch. Maybe you open it up into a figure 4 and you can reach behind the right thigh or shin. In whichever shape you're taking, finding the micro movements or the intentional breath going towards sensation. Greeting the edge, backing away from the edge. Let it feel good. Okay, we'll unwind. And yes, we're going to rock on the spine again as our transition back through to, you guessed it, tabletop. So finding your way here. And this time from tabletop, I'll invite you to return to downward facing dog. And as you explore this downward dog, third time here in this practice, whether you want movement or stillness, and notice how your body, mind, and breath are all giving you feedback. What's changing throughout the practice? What's happening now? What do you need now? And from this downward dog, I'll invite you to begin to walk your feet forward, coming into a forward fold. And this forward fold might be with knees deeply bent, like a rag doll. You can take your pinkies to opposite elbows. You might even sway a little side to side. Or you can leave hands on the floor, might be a little more grounding. You can use blocks to bring the floor closer. And maybe nod the head yes. Take it no. Let your voice go. Sigh something out. And then with nice bent knees, making your way to standing, you might find a, excuse me, halfway lift. You might roll up to standing, really listening to how your body wants to support that transition. And once you arrive in standing, taking a moment, accommodating to a new position in gravity, can you keep that same feeling like that half squat, that really deep low to the ground quality? Can you stay rooted even as we lift up? So that our instinctual intelligence, that lives in the dantian, right, in the deep low center of the belly, can support the intelligence of the heart, the intelligence of the mind. Maybe even your knees have that gentle bend to them, really letting that grounding be supported. And I'm going to invite that even very consciously and even a wider stance here for our next movement from the qigong tradition, just allowing yourself to begin to swing side to side. And you might allow the arms to swing, and they'll typically kind of land right over the kidneys. So you're giving a nice little self-massage, facilitated simply by the momentum of the twist and the swinging of your arms. You can let that exhale, exhale, exhale have a sharp, intense quality to it. Maybe a ha, ha, ha. And then slow, letting the twisting come to stillness. And with those soft knees, pausing, sensing the chi, sensing that in the yogic tradition, the prana, that quality of the energy, the breath inside the breath. Gorgeous. From here, we'll find a little wave arm forms. It's both in the Therapeutic Yoga for Trauma book. Some of you have done this with me before. And in our pressing of palms, just an opportunity to move a little from side to side. You're going to press palms in opposite directions. Your gaze might be down or lifted. That's up to you. And the inhale is through center. And the exhale as you lean to one side. Gorgeous. It's like your arms are churning now around the heart. One more to each side. And then back up to center. And for this next one, inhale, kind of a standing extension of the heart, and exhale, draw it in, press the forearms towards each other, finding that intuitive range of motion. You might even play with opening the arms and then crossing underneath into that hug that we did earlier. Opening both front and back sides of your heart. You might even take it into the eagle arm. And then once you feel evened out on both sides, invitation to open the arms and then draw them back behind you, and either clasping hands or grabbing onto a strap, and then allowing both hands to descend to support the uplifting of your heart. And on an exhale, a forward fold, bent knees, drawing head below heart, bowing the intelligence of the mind to the intelligence of your heart. And slowly, by way of your sacrum, releasing hands down to the earth and finding a halfway lift. On an exhale, planting your hands, stepping back. And as we go to down dog, I'll invite you to roll forward into a plank, to lower knees, to press back to child's. And then we're just moving right from there all the way to the earth. So fun little transition there. You can play with that. We'll have a few more opportunities. From this shape, some rolling cobras. And it's your range of motion. Knowing that there's no right, no wrong. You can choose how much weight in the hands, how much lift of your heart. One more, your own breath. And on an exhale, lowering, using hands to press hips towards heels, just as a transition from child through table to downward dog. Let it feel good, and honoring your body. Remember, rest as often as you need for as long as you'd like. If your body is saying, child felt good, I want to stay there longer, go for it. And when you're ready, and if you're ready, maybe coming back to downward dog. And then we'll make a transition to the front of the mat. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can walk yourself forward. You can draw feet in a little bit, bend your knees, and even pounce yourself forward, sending your hips up. Really find how you want to make this transition. From the point where your feet are towards the front of your mat, taking a moment, finding a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale all the way to standing. Just 2 times to each side. Exhale, wave arms. Through center. Inhale, that heart lift, maybe goalpost the arms. And this time, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. And exhale, planting hands, stepping feet back, moving from downward dog, rolling to plank. Knees can settle, hips towards heels. And then up and over to the earth, just linking it right into cobra. Inhale. Exhale. Forehead to earth. And we reverse that, moving from table towards child's, back up through table, pressing downward facing dog. And every down dog can be a child's pose. If your wrists are feeling tired, any down dog can be a dolphin pose, lowering forearms to the mat. So lots of ways to modify. From your downward dog, if you're there, we're going to make a transition to the front of the mat. Again, a nice slow walk or a hop. And greeting yourself there, finding a halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And either your feet step together or hip widths apart, both are fine for this next transition. bending the knees, and inhale into Utkatasana. So you can choose the depth of the knee bend here, the depth of the chair that you're sitting in, right? And in whatever shape you're choosing, I'm going to invite a little bit of a vigorous breath. You'll probably feel your heart rate increase, and that's what we're going for. On an exhale, sweeping the arms back. Inhale. Maybe exhale through the mouth with a ha. Great opportunity to let some stress just come off your arms, your fingertips. One more. And inhale, chair. Exhale, sweep the arms back, clasping hands. We've been here, drawing the clasped hands back, maybe lifting heels, balancing in drinking bird. Settling heels, releasing hands. Inhale to sweep. And exhale, forward fold. Now, you have options here in how you'd like to transition to downward dog. You can simply step straight back. You might come through that variation, knees down, cobra, or you might come to high plank and lower halfway, lifting through upward facing dog and pressing back. Once in downward dog or child's or Shavasana, and come back to breath. Relax your face. Relax your jaw and your tongue and your eyes, so that what supports you in any shape is only what's necessary. And then from downward facing dog, I'll invite you to lift through your right leg and exhale forward and through. And you might want blocks here for a moment and just a few breaths in and out of a front lunge. Eventually, I'm going to invite you to settle your left heel. With left heel down, maybe bringing hands to your waist, and we'll lift up into a prep for Warrior One. Warrior One is generally thought of as a closed hip position or a hips forward shape. And we're really using this once again, the pose as a support to get into the body. So you can open and close the hips for a few breaths, finding just the edge of sensation, greeting that, maybe staying there, maybe hands can come to the sides of the ribs, encouraging the heart forward, perhaps arms lift up. Maybe the gaze lifts. And then from here, I'll invite you to take left arm under right, and either the hug or eagle arms, in whichever shape you've chosen, a moment to lift through your heart. And on an exhale, once again, a humble shape, bowing head beneath the heart. With eagle arms here, breathing into the backside of your heart. And then slowly, lovingly lifting up, releasing your arms. And then we'll open the shape to Warrior Two. You can do a little footwork here with your feet, finding your way in, and you might lift and lower out of the shape. You can let your arms mirror that. And then from warrior two, we're going to find those same wave arms, pressing right arm up overhead and left forward as you reach away from the front bent leg, and then switching it out. Pressing the hands as we go toward extended side angle, and just using that intelligence of the belly to support the shape. Right. I like to inhale through center and exhale to each side. You feel it out for you. The next time you lift up, we're going to lengthen through front leg and open up the arms, reaching into a reverse triangle. And on an exhale, long reach and rotating the arms. And you can take hand to shin. Maybe you like hand to block. And in this shape, our Trikonasana triangle, we'll take it in exploratory form once again. And simply by allowing that left arm to wave back, up, overhead, letting the heart explore a slight twist towards the ceiling or closing off towards the earth. Gorgeous. And then pausing for just a moment before softening your right knee, lifting up, and exhale. We windmill to earth. Right foot can step back to meet the left. No vinyasa, yes vinyasa. Let your body answer that question for you. Meeting in downward facing dog to find the transition to side two. In side two, we lift through left leg, inhaling up, exhaling through, and then maybe a few breaths here. What does this side of your body want you to know? Breathing. Follow what feels good. And eventually settling right heel down to the mat. We're preparing for warrior one. You might take hands to hips, pressing into that front leg, especially to lift yourself up. And then we get to open and close through the hips, finding that natural edge. You can even back away from the edge so that you're being super kind, so kind and loving the whole way through. And here we are, low lunge. Warrior two, maybe you are drawing the heart forward. Maybe you draw the arms up. All right, warrior one, right? This shape. Maybe the gaze lifts. And then we open the arms. This time it's right arm under left. And a hug or a double cross in eagle arms, lifting through your elbows. And exhale. Forward in humble eagle warrior, head below heart. Slowly we lift, unwinding the arms, maybe a revisit to warrior one before opening it up to warrior two. And maybe in and out of that lunge, the arms can mirror. Gorgeous. Eventually, we're going to find those wave arms. I'll play around just by facing you for a second, okay? And we're reaching away from the front bent leg, and toward. I like to imagine being at the ocean and that soothing quality of the waves coming towards the shore and the way they roll back away. Or just next time you lift up, maybe lengthening through that front leg. You can always keep a nice micro bend there. Gazing up, inhale, and exhale. Reach, reach, reach. Rotate, shin or block. Supported shape here. And staying still, or maybe those exploratory movements with right arm. Overhead, back. You might stay here longer, and if you're ready to come on out, be bending through that left knee. Inhale and exhale to the earth. To the earth, your way to downward facing dog, however you would like to get there. And from your downward dog, we've got one more transition to the top of the mat, however you'd like to make that happen as well. Once you arrive at top of mat, finding a halfway lift, a forward fold, and your way to stand. So in our final standing shapes, an invitation to play one more time with shapes that we found already, but this time in balance. So the two shapes that we're going to link on each side are going to be standing figure 4 into eagle. And if you're not familiar, I'm going to show them super fast, and then I'm going to guide you through. From the standing shape, we lift one leg. We've been here on our back. You can find your variation of this, the depth of hold. We're going to lift up part way enough to cross the legs, cross the arms, and find that balance in eagle. We'll step out, we'll lift up, we'll stretch, we'll do side 2. So all of that said, we'll do it together. So it's helpful to start with feet together in this one, and helpful to start with bent knees. From that Utkatasana, where we've been already, we're going to let the left leg, let your left foot get really rooted. Nice and supported left leg. You can always use a chair, a windowsill for balance, a wall. We're going to take right leg to the side, up and over. So this is our figure 4, and it's super cool to stay uplifted in this, right? Just finding balance in this kind of wide hip open balance shape. You might sit a little bit further down. You might bring elbows to the inside of the knee and on top of the foot. Sometimes it feels good to press into the top of that right foot with your left hand. You might even take right hand down and gaze down. Whatever shape you're in, come back to your breath and soften what doesn't need to be active. Your jaw, maybe your shoulders can let go a little. Come back to breath. And then we're going to press into the left foot, big transition, ooh, wobbly transition. If you fall out, that's all good. Come on back in and we'll find eagle. So this time we're, just like we did on our backs, we're going to wrap the legs, maybe a single or double wrap with the foot. You can open the arms and with right arm underneath left, and start with the hug, or you might take it into full eagle arms. Maybe you lift the elbows, Send your breath into your left ankle. I know it's talking, mine is. And then let's come on out. Let's open it up. You can step wide, maybe lift to the toes for a moment, maybe step into your right foot and shake out the left. Shake out the whole body. Let your voice go. Let all those neck muscles and eye muscles go that were working hard for you there. Good. Side two. Feet together. Bent knees. Maybe hands to heart center. A point for your gaze always helps with balance. Hearing the sound of your breath, that ujjayi, oceanic breath, wakes up the internal, in the inner ear, those proprioceptors, the vestibular system, grounding into right foot, roots, 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 lifting left toes, opening knee, maybe lifting leg on top of leg. You can use your hands to help place it if you need, right? So awesome to stay lifted. Awesome to fold. No better, no worse. Finding your variation. Maybe that press of the foot. Maybe lowering left hand to ankle. Your breath. And then beginning to lift up slowly, using your gaze, your breath, and then beginning to cross right thigh, left thigh over right. It's like a little pretzel here. We're going to open the arms. It's left arm under right. Hug or eagle. And traditionally, as we lift the elbows here, we're blocking our sight. So relying upon peripheral vision, the sound of the breath. And when you feel even and complete, stepping it out, maybe lift, expand, and then shake, let it go. It's over. Whatever happened or didn't happen doesn't really matter. We're not taking it with us into the next moment, so we let that one go. And then final standing before we come onto our backs, just a moment to place hand over belly, hand over heart, to bend your knees just enough, right? Maybe even tuck your tailbone slightly and allow your ears to come back over your shoulders. Letting it all slow down. And perhaps sensing these intelligences, belly, heart, head, aligned. And from this place, imagine connecting to your wisest self. What does that need you to know, to sense, to feel? Perhaps the wisest self is this alignment of mind and body. And from that deepest instinctual knowing, I'll invite you to find your very own way to transition onto your back. You might simply crouch down into a small ball. Use your hands to sit your hips. And arriving. So in the Kripalu tradition where I trained, there's always space at the end of a practice for this listening. And the key question here is, are there any final movements that you need to complete your practice? That might be hugging everything in tight to a ball. It might be a spinal twist. It might be a bridge pose. It might be anything, right? Whatever you need. Because once we've tapped in to that intelligence of the body, the sensations are really awakened as guide and might take you into a shape that has no known yoga Sanskrit name at all, but is simply organically, truly yours, your own authentic movement. And you are welcome to find any of those organic flowing shapes for as long as you'd like. And for those of you whose authentic expression right now is, oh, I'm so ready for stillness. Hallelujah. I will guide you there. Taking a moment to set yourself up wisely for your Shavasana, sending legs long. Maybe a moment to lower your shoulders, open your armpits, open the palms of your hands to the ceiling. You can lift and lower your head once again, or rock your head a little bit, placing chin to lift and tuck and finding that sweet spot. And the deepest permission to rest fully, to be nourished by your practice. Maybe scanning your body and noticing if there's any lingering tension that remains. You might even give it a squeeze or a breath to acknowledge it. And then an invitation to soften and let that go. And please, please stay here. I'm moving just because I'm going to transition to the front to read you our poem one last time. But please rest for this. I'm going to return just to Lynn Unger's poem, The Way It Is. It's nice to see you resting. All right. One morning, you might wake up to realize that the knot in your stomach had loosened itself and slipped away, and that the pit of the unfulfilled longing in your heart had gradually, and without you really noticing, been filled in, patched like a pothole, not quite the same as it was, but good enough. And in that moment, it might occur to you that your life, though not the way you planned it, and maybe not even entirely the way you wanted it, is nonetheless persistently, abundantly, miraculously, exactly the way it is. All right, my beautiful, beautiful people. Stay, rest, or if you are ready, beginning to make the most gentle, loving pilgrimage back up to sitting, taking with you that embodied intelligence, letting that inform the transition from the floor up. Even perhaps envisioning how you'd like to take this deepest inner connection with you into your day, into your week, into your relationships, and into the world. And As we come to close, I invite you, if you're ready, sitting, perhaps palm over palm or palm to palm in front of your heart. Once again, bowing head to heart. From the embodied, intelligent place within me, I honor and bow to the embodied intelligence within you. Namaste.